Welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Reese. Today, we are talking about what happens when you slowly lose yourself while taking care of everyone else. Now, this is something I'm not just teaching about right now. It is something that I'm living, I'm noticing, and I'm navigating in real time. Lately, I have been discovering the tolls our bodies take when we ignore ourselves. Now, this isn't all at once. It's not even dramatically. It's slow and it's quiet in ways we don't always recognize until something in us says, something's not right. And for me, this connects deeply to something I've talked about before. Being a recovering people pleaser and codependent. Emphasis on recovering. If you've listened to other episodes, you've heard parts of my story. You know that codependency ran rampant through so many years of my life, my relationships, my work, even my friendships as I got older. And one of the most helpful definitions of codependency I ever came across came from the book Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. She describes codependency as a person who has let another person's behavior affect them and is obsessed with controlling that behavior. It is a stress-induced, habitual pattern of focusing on others' needs, crises, and feelings while neglecting one's own, often resulting in caretaking, enabling, and losing sight of oneself. Now, when I first read that, it stopped me because, damn, I could see myself so clearly in it. I remember exactly where I was when that happened. So I was married at the time, my third marriage, and I was sober and going to AA meetings. And it was my sponsor during that time that suggested I read this. Now, I didn't really fully understand why she was having me do this, but she definitely knew. I remember sitting in the car with Rob, my third husband, my ex, reading this book, right? This Codependent No More book. And when I read, I don't know about you, but when I read, I have a pen and a highlighter in my hand. Do you do that? Not fun books, but, self-help kind of books. Okay. So I'm reading this book and I am highlighting everything. And I mean like everything that I related to. Because, I was in awe that someone could put words to what I had been feeling for so long. And I'll never forget. Rob looks over at me and says, "Hey, why don't you just highlight the parts you don't agree with?" And I laughed because I realized, oh, I'm basically highlighting the entire book. And what I came to understand is that codependency isn't something that's wrong with us. It's something we learned. It's a safety mechanism. It's something that forms when we are young, when we don't feel safe, when we don't feel seen, when we don't feel like we can trust the environment around us. So we learn to read people. We learn to anticipate. We learn to adjust ourselves. We believe, mainly unconsciously, if I do everything right, then I'll be safe. If I take care of them, they will love me. And I want to pause here for a second because this part matters. In that definition of codependency, she uses the word control. And if you hear the word control and it feels uncomfortable, I understand that because it made me uncomfortable to hear, like, I'm trying to control somebody. What are you talking about? Until I learned this behavior isn't about manipulation. This was about safety. This was about survival. This was really about wanting to be loved. And here's a part that's harder to see. That while we're focusing on everyone else, on their needs, their moods, their outcomes, we slowly lose connection with ourselves. Their dreams can become ours. Their needs come first. Their emotions take priority. And somewhere along the way, we stop asking, what do I need? What do I even want? What the heck do I even feel? Because sometimes we don't even know anymore. And that's really important. That's how I had felt in that third marriage. Everything kind of really came to a head. His dreams were mine. His thoughts were mine. I had given up myself in that relationship for love. What I thought, was love. So I wasn't asking, what do I need? I wasn't asking, what do I want? I didn't know how I felt, except for, I will say, I felt numb most of the time. And so, this feeling like that we have when we don't know who we are, but it shows up for everyone else. It can show up as, caregiving for a partner, caregiving for children, caregiving our aging parents. This is even about being the emotional support for everyone else around us, like friends and coworkers and colleagues, right? It can look loving on the outside that we're giving ourselves so much to everyone else. But you know what quietly it is on the inside? It's self-abandonment. Yeah, I know. Ouch, right? I'd like to share how this is showing up for me right now in real time. Because I've learned this not just intellectually, but in my body. Through the years of codependency and people pleasing, of really, I'm calling it self-abandoning, my body was always talking to me. Does yours do that? At first it was subtle, like tension and tightness. And then it became louder. And then after my third divorce, I got what I thought was my dream job. But what I didn't see at the time was that I had stepped right back into a familiar pattern. My boss felt like my past relationships. And there was someone in the office that undermined me all the time. I was under so much stress. I felt like I couldn't do it right. All of these old familiar feelings. But I didn't listen. I didn't slow down. In fact, I worked more. I pushed harder. I stopped taking care of myself. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't moving my body. I was trying to prove myself. And honestly, I was really trying to be needed. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like this feels familiar and pushing hard? I was trying to prove myself. And it was really about where does my identity become what I do? How well I perform instead of who I am. Right? Does that resonate? That's where I was for a long time. And it came to a point in that job that my body couldn't hold it anymore. It showed up as adrenal fatigue, ocular migraines, numbness in my arms, and increasing back pain. But I didn't listen. I pushed through. And that eventually led to the back fusion and the neck fusion 6 weeks apart. Now, I believe there's a gift or something good that can come out of these things that happen to us. It takes a while sometimes to see any kind of silver linings, but I really believe that there is. because that recovery time after the surgeries, being forced to stop, was actually a gift for me because it gave me the space to begin seeing what was really happening inside me. And it also was when I found the forgiveness work. But then about a year and a half later, I started losing vision in my right eye. And hearing the words brain tumor was not something I expected. And in hindsight, I could see, pun intended here, that I still hadn't fully learned how to listen to my body. And now, fast forward to the last several years, as I'm walking through this caregiving journey with my husband living with dementia, the pattern came back again. But this time, it was quieter. It was more subtle. It looked like being the good wife, the strong one, the one who could handle it all, until I couldn't. Now, through this journey, there were moments, in all honesty, that I felt like a fraud. I'm a forgiveness coach, for Pete's sake. I should know better. Okay, that should word, right? I was shoulding on myself. And I could feel the shame and the guilt rising, those old familiar feelings that I felt a lot in my life. And what I had to come back to was this: I'm not a fraud, and neither are you. I'm human, and so are you. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my judgments. I'm not that courtroom in my head, if you listen to my episode about that. I'm a human being doing the best that I can. And one of the biggest things I've learned is that we are not meant to do this alone. We need people. We need friends who tell us the truth. We need a good therapist or coach who calls us in and not out. And let me know if you want to know what that means. And today, I'm still caring for my body. I have appointments weekly. I have a morning practice, not perfect, but intentional. Sometimes journaling, sometimes just a few minutes of breathing. And even something simple like breathing, I had to relearn because I started noticing something. People would comment that when I arrived somewhere, I would sigh like that, like big, like out loud. And I started noticing that people made those comments. So then I realized, oh my God, I'm holding my breath right throughout the day. I'm not really releasing through all my rushing, through all the moving. I wasn't giving myself space to integrate. Have you noticed that? Are you sighing, or are you noticing that you're holding your breath? I was, breathing shallow, having tightness, rushing around. Have you noticed that for you? Gosh, if you do, I'm really with you. So now I practice pausing when I'm in the car or between appointments, even for just a moment. I take a breath in as deeply as I can, and I breathe out as much as I can. Just breathe. And if that irritates you to hear that, you probably need to do it more. That's what I learned. And I say that with deep love. In closing, I'd like you to take a moment and gently ask yourself, where might I be taking care of everyone else and not myself? Now just notice. Now, yes, we have responsibilities. Yes, some of us have children we need to take care of, or pets, or aging parents, or spouses, or friends that we've committed to. And we're good people, right? We like to take care of others. But I really want you to think about this question because your body knows the truth. Where might I be taking care of everyone else and not myself? Where could I be abandoning myself and not taking care of it the way that she would like me to? Is my body talking to me? Is it needing something? You know it. You know the truth. If you just sit with that question, you'll know the answer. And if this answer feels heavy, please don't carry it alone. Reach out to someone you trust. And if you feel called to go deeper in this work, to truly understand your patterns, rebuild self-trust, and come back to yourself, I'm here. I really appreciate you being here with me today. I really cherish our time together. And I really want you to remember something. You matter. You really, really do. And until next time, take care. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.